Hello, everyone, and welcome to a Wednesday edition of the Orange and Brown Talk podcast. I am Dan Labbe. Mary Kay and Ashley are off this week, well-deserved vacation weeks for them. So I had to call up Lance Reisland, our old buddy, to have him on. Lance, we haven't had you on for a while. It's great to see you. How are you doing?
Dan, doing very well. It's great to be back, my friend.
Okay, so I texted you and I said, let's do 5 Browns players we're excited to see in 2023. Let's draft them, right? A 2-person draft. What can go wrong? But let's go through and figure out who we're excited to see in this new offense, this new defense. Not really any restrictions, not really any, guidelines. It's just who you're excited to see. You had said that I could have the first pick, but you are the guest, Lance. So I feel like I need to let you have the first pick in this draft. You've never gotten to do a draft with us before. I feel like you should have the first pick here. So I'm going to just cede my pick to you, and you get to go number 1 overall.
Well, I think my first choice is going to be pretty obvious. I'm going to go with Deshaun Watson. So I'm taking, I'm really excited to see him after a full offseason. I'm really excited to see him without all the extra stuff he had to go through last year. In terms of not being on the field, not being able to play the whole season. I'm interested to see if he can get back to that 220. He was so good in 220. When you watch those film from 220, he is so dynamic. So with the weapons they've added, full year in the system, full year of work, I'm very excited to see what level he gets to, and will he get back to that 220 level.
So when you watched this offense last year in those 6 games with Deshaun, I guess, what did you see? Was it just a lot of rust? Was it just just too hard to kind of put that offense on the field for 6 games after 11 games off? What did you see from it?
Yeah, I think it's just a long time off, lots and lots of rust, like you said. So, watching from a coach's perspective, I just saw latest stuff. Footwork's a little bit, obviously footwork's different from being in the gun. He was in the gun almost 89%, almost 90% of the time with the Texans. So being underneath center, learning that footwork, and then just game speed, that game speed at the NFL level. I've said it to people before. I've watched football my whole life, but being down there last year on the, at practice on the sidelines, those guys are so fast, and that just takes, you can be as fast as you want in practice, but you got to have those game reps. I just think he was rusty. I think it was a new offense. He had to learn new people, and there's a lot of stuff that off the field that kind of probably took its toll on him as well. So I just saw rust. I think he's going to come back. I think he can get this 220 self for sure.
Well, it's funny you mention Nick Chubb, because I have pick number 2, and that's where I was going to go, Nick Chubb. I'm very curious to see what he looks like. I think, so in one sense, we sort of know what Nick Chubb is going to look like, because he's Nick Chubb, I think, the best runner in football. When he gets to the second level, one-on-one match, he's nearly unstoppable. 5 yards a carry for his career. Somebody asked me, one of our texters asked me, can Nick Chubb get 1,600 yards this season? And I mean, the answer is if he gets enough carries, yes. Now he needs something like 320 carries. I don't think he's going to get that many if he averages 5 yards a carry. But on the one hand, we know what Nick Chubb is. But now I want to see what he is next to Deshaun Watson, what he is in the passing game. He's going to be much more involved there. In the screen game, how does he run out of the shotgun? All of that. So I still think, even though we sort of know what Nick Chubb is, I want to see what he looks like now in this version of the offense. All right, let's move on. Who's next on your list here?
Well, you're making it easy on me, so I'm gonna go Myles Garrett, and with my second pick, and for what they've done on the defensive line, the reason I like Myles Garrett is because he can now, with Zadarius Smith, and I've done a lot of work with the defensive line from the 2017 Eagles team. And what they do, what Shorts does so well, is create these matchups. And they've added not just Zadarius Smith, but they've added Tomlinson and Obo and some other guys that are going to really create havoc in terms of matchups, because Smith can go downside, so can Myles. So I'm interested to see Myles Garrett not always getting the attention. He will obviously get the attention because he's still the best defensive lineman, but you got to kind of honor the rest of those guys as well. So I think he's set for a huge year. Not only did they have more people up front, but Schwartz is the master of creating matchups. So I think that's going to be really beneficial.
Okay, I'm going to stay on the defensive side of the ball, and I'm going to take a guy. This is probably there are other guys I'm interested in, but I want to talk about this guy. I actually just wrote about his position today. It just went up on the site here on Wednesday. I'm going to take Greg Newsome. I think he is one of the most interesting storylines this season. And maybe people are just sick of hearing about it. They're sick of hearing about Nickel and how the Browns are going to deploy Newsome. But I think he's really interesting because this is a big year for him. It's his third year in the league. I feel like it's been pretty up and down. A former first round pick doesn't have an interception in the league yet. I think he only had like one interception at Northwestern too, so
Yep.
he's got to start forcing some turnovers here. Um, this is a guy that was not thrilled to be playing nickel last year. I still think he's going to be playing some nickel, but we saw Denzel Ward doing it a little bit in the spring, and we saw some safeties doing a little bit in the spring. I think there's going to be opportunities now for Newsome to be an outside corner with Ward playing a little bit inside. But just Newsome's role, kind of this really important year for Greg Newsome, and now it's kind of like no excuses anymore. Like Joe Woods is gone, Jim Schwartz is here. If you can't make it work with Jim Schwartz in this scheme, I don't know what to tell you. So Greg Newsome is a guy with a ton of talent, has shown flashes. I want to see if he can put it all together this year.
Well, see, there's an interesting thing. See, so you go from Woods, you think